In the bitter winter of 1934, in an industrial Midwest town, an unnamed housewife managed to feed her family of 6 using exactly $3 in cash per week. She did not know what a credit card was. Instead, she relied on a ruthless system of resource management inside her cramped kitchen. By the time the Great Depression ended, her family had not only survived but emerged without a single penny of debt. This was not luck. It was a calculated survival strategy that we have been conditioned to forget. For instance, item number 17 on this list is so incredibly frugal and effective that plastic storage corporations have spent decades and millions of advertising dollars just to brainwash us into throwing it away. And wait until you see item number 4. It reveals a brilliant chemical reaction using what we now consider pure trash, the exact same thing that modern dietitians are currently packaging in fancy glass jars and selling back to us for $8 a cup. These are not outdated historical footnotes. These skills were intentionally erased because corporate America simply cannot extract a profit from people who are entirely independent. Your grandparents already knew this truth. Before we start our countdown, make sure to hit subscribe. At least one of these buried tricks could be the exact thing that saves you from having to rely on the supermarket system during the next economic downturn. Number 25 is the physical cash envelope system. In 1937, a standard factory worker brought home about $22 a week in a paper slip. That exact amount was immediately divided at the kitchen table into separate paper envelopes for rent, groceries, and coal. This ironclad discipline almost disappeared entirely when the modern banking system realized they could not make a single dime off a sealed envelope. They spent the next 50 years aggressively marketing plastic credit cards, convincing our generation that carrying debt was just a normal part of building an adult life. Here is the math that Wall Street desperately hopes you forget. When you put a $100 grocery bill on a card and only pay the minimum balance, that food eventually costs you over $150 in hidden interest. Your grandfather knew that if the envelope was empty, you simply stopped buying. Returning to this strictly cash method today is the absolute fastest way to starve the banks and keep thousands of your own dollars exactly where they belong. Number 24 is reclaiming free entertainment. During the 1930s, a family could spend countless evenings gathered around a wooden radio or playing cards without spending a single penny. Today, the modern streaming industry has convinced us that we need multiple digital subscriptions just to relax. They quietly siphon $200 a month from the average household for endless digital noise. Here is the math that nobody runs. That is over $2,000 a year vanishing into thin air. Meanwhile, a standard deck of cards costs $2 and provides a decade of genuine family connection. Canceling those automatic payments and returning to library cards or simple board games instantly puts massive amounts of cash back into your own pocket. Number 23 is the lost art of the kitchen chair haircut. In a 1940s neighborhood, paying a professional for a basic trim was considered an absurd luxury. Mothers and wives acted as the family barber using a simple pair of shears on the front porch. The modern beauty industry has since normalized charging $40 for a basic 15-minute men cut. If you calculate the lifetime cost, a family with 3 sons will bleed thousands of dollars just to keep their hair short. A quality set of electric clippers is a single $30 purchase that pays for itself in less than a month. Taking back your basic grooming routines from overpriced salons is a quiet act of financial rebellion. Number 22 is outdoor line drying. Our grandmothers hung laundry on a simple rope because it was just how chores were done. Then the appliance industry and power companies teamed up to convince us that mechanical dryers were an absolute necessity. Here's the physical truth about what they are selling you. The lint you clean out of your dryer trap is actually the expensive fabric of your clothing being literally cooked and torn apart. By returning to a simple outdoor clothesline, you not only eliminate a massive chunk of your monthly electric bill, but you also force your cotton shirts and denim jeans to last years longer. The sun provides free bleaching and sanitizing that no chemical detergent can ever match. Number 21 is washing and rescuing disposable goods. Families who survived the Great Depression had a dedicated drawer for folded aluminum foil, smoothed out wrapping paper, and untangled string. Massive retail stores hate this habit. They have built an entire economic empire on selling you convenience items that are designed to be thrown in the trash after exactly one use. The math is staggering when you realize the average American family spends hundreds of dollars annually purchasing plastic bags just to throw them away. Washing out a sturdy storage bag or reusing glass jars is not a sign of poverty. It is a brilliant refusal to participate in a system that demands you constantly buy your own garbage over and over again. First pattern break. Notice a trend here. The tricks we have covered so far are mostly about extreme spending discipline. But this next section is where things get truly interesting. The upcoming items reveal exactly how the American working class used their own physical labor to generate true wealth, completely bypassing the complicated business plans that Wall Street spent decades trying to sell them. Number 20 is the absolute refusal to throw away edible food. In a 1930s kitchen, Sunday dinner remnants were meticulously transformed into Monday stews and Tuesday pies. The modern grocery industry quietly erased this discipline by pushing the concept of constant freshness and pre-packaged convenience meals. Here is the math that nobody runs. The average American household now throws away nearly $2,000 of spoiled food every single year. That is a massive portion of your hard-earned income literally rotting in a landfill. Designating one strict leftover night per week forces you to consume what you already own. It is a simple habit that instantly puts hundreds of dollars back into your bank account while honoring the value of your own labor. Number 19 is eating strictly by the natural calendar. Decades ago, families only bought root vegetables in the winter and fresh tomatoes in the summer when they were abundant and incredibly cheap. The global supply chain destroyed this rhythm by convincing us that we need expensive strawberries in the middle of January. Supermarkets fly out of season produce across the ocean and quietly pass the massive shipping costs directly onto you. The truth is, buying produce only when it is locally harvested cuts your grocery bill by a massive margin. By following local sales flyers instead of your cravings, you completely bypass the expensive logistics of corporate grocery networks and eat food that actually tastes like it should. Number 18 is purchasing foundational staples in massive quantities. Families who stretched a single dollar used to buy 50-pound sacks of flour, rice, and beans. Corporate grocery stores hate this approach. They have spent millions of dollars designing psychological store layouts designed to lure you into buying tiny, brightly colored boxes of heavily processed junk food. Here is the math they hide from you. Buying rice in a tiny cardboard box costs you 4 times as much per pound compared to a bulk sack sitting on a bottom shelf. Sticking entirely to the raw foundational ingredients allows you to bypass the massive marketing markups of the modern food industry. You stop paying for fancy cardboard and start paying only for actual nutrition. Number 17 is the secret I promised you earlier. It is the absolute refusal to buy plastic storage containers. Great Depression families never threw away a sturdy glass jar or a durable tin box. The plastic container industry has spent billions of dollars in advertising just to convince us that buying their disposable products is somehow cleaner or more organized. The chemistry is real. Glass does not leach harmful chemicals into your food, and it lasts for generations. I actually tested this myself. My own kitchen now has a dedicated grease jar sitting right next to the stove, just like my grandmother kept. Washing and saving the glass jars that your pasta sauce comes in completely eliminates the need to ever buy a fragile plastic container again. Number 16 is the strategic extension of expensive proteins. During the toughest economic times, a single pound of ground beef had to feed a family of 8. Mothers achieved this by mixing the meat with cheap oats, breadcrumbs, or mashed potatoes. The industrial meat industry spent the next half-century running massive campaigns to convince men that a real dinner required a massive, pure slab of beef. Here is what they do not tell you. Professional chefs today call this exact same meat extending technique a panade, and they will gladly charge you $40 for a single meatball at a fancy restaurant. Your grandmother just called it Wednesday dinner. Adding oats to your ground meat instantly doubles your meal size for pennies on the dollar. Number 15 is the concept of the perpetual soup pot. Before the era of microwave dinners, a heavy pot sat on the back of the stove, receiving every single vegetable scrap, bone, and leftover piece of starch throughout the week. Modern convenience culture has convinced us that making soup requires buying expensive, pre-packaged cartons of broth loaded with artificial sodium. The chemistry of a slow-simmering pot is a miracle of survival. Heat breaks down the tough cellular walls of vegetable scraps and extracts deep collagen from leftover bones, creating a rich nutritional profile that scientists struggle to replicate in a factory. Starting a scrap bag in your freezer to boil down on Sundays transforms literal garbage into highly nutritious, completely free meals for your family. Number 14 is the lost underground economy of bartering. When cash dried up completely in 1933, neighborhoods survived by trading physical skills. A man who knew how to repair a tractor would trade his labor for 3 dozen eggs and a bushel of apples. The modern banking system hopes you forget this concept entirely. They want every single transaction to involve a credit card swipe so they can collect a processing fee. The truth is, your personal skills have massive untaxed value. Trading an hour of your time fixing a neighbor's plumbing in exchange for them cutting your lawn bypasses the financial system completely. It keeps wealth circulating within your own neighborhood instead of sending it directly to a massive corporate headquarters. Number 13 is the original community potluck. When families could not afford to host a full dinner, they simply pooled their resources together. Every household brought one inexpensive dish, ensuring that everyone had a feast. The massive modern restaurant industry has aggressively replaced this tradition, selling us the idea that gathering with friends requires paying for an overpriced dining experience. The math is brutal. A group of 4 couples will easily drop $400 eating out at a mediocre chain restaurant. Organizing a weekend potluck where everyone brings a simple home-cooked dish creates a far richer social experience for roughly $10 a person. It is a brilliant way to maintain your social life while aggressively starving the hospitality industry. Second pattern break. Now, here is where the government gets incredibly uncomfortable. During the Depression, as millions of Americans stopped spending money and started trading goods and services among themselves, the Internal Revenue Service took notice. They became terrified of a system where physical cash did not change hands, because that meant they could not track it or tax it. The next set of skills shows exactly how our grandparents quietly built real, untaxed wealth right under the noses of the authorities. Number 12 is the forgotten discipline of mending and darning. In the 1930s, a torn shirt or a hole in a sock was never a reason to throw the garment away. Women kept a dedicated sewing tin and meticulously repaired every single item until the fabric literally fell apart. The modern fast fashion industry destroyed this habit by flooding stores with cheap clothing made from synthetic plastic threads. They trained us to treat our wardrobes as entirely disposable. Here is the math that nobody runs. Buying cheap $5 shirts every few weeks eventually costs you hundreds of dollars a year. Taking 10 minutes to sew a button back onto a high-quality cotton shirt completely bypasses the retail cycle and keeps your hard-earned money in your wallet. Number 11 is the strategic rotation of family clothing. Decades ago, a thick wool coat was passed down from the oldest brother through every sibling until it finally became a cleaning rag. The modern children retail industry absolutely hates this concept. They spend millions on marketing to convince parents that every single child needs a brand new wardrobe for every season and every school year. The truth is that genuine cotton and wool fabrics were built to last for decades. Passing quality clothing down through your family network is not a sign of financial struggle. It is a brilliant strategy that starves the retail chains and saves a growing family thousands of dollars over the course of a single childhood. Number 10 is making secondhand purchasing your default standard. Families who survived the hardest economic times considered a sturdy piece of used furniture to be a highly valuable asset. Over the last 50 years, corporate advertisers aggressively planted a psychological stigma against used goods, convincing us that buying new is the only way to show success. They want you trapped in a cycle of constantly financing new couches and dining sets. The math is incredibly simple. A solid oak table from an estate sale cost pennies on the dollar compared to a flimsy particle board table from a big box store. Ignoring the corporate stigma and buying used allows you to furnish your entire home with heirloom quality pieces while remaining completely debt-free. Number 9 is the absolute refusal to replace broken goods. When a work boot wore down in 1935, a man did not throw it in the trash. He took it to a cobbler or glued a new sole on it himself right in the garage. Modern manufacturing corporations intentionally design their products with planned obsolescence. They build appliances, shoes, and tools with cheap internal parts that are guaranteed to break just after the warranty expires. Here is what they do not tell you. Learning basic repair skills like applying shoe glue or replacing a simple belt on a washing machine destroys their entire business model. Fixing what you already own is the ultimate act of rebellion against a system that profits from your continuous spending. Number 8 is the intense physical labor of home canning and preserving. Before refrigeration was common, rural families survived harsh winters by packing glass jars with summer vegetables, berries, and meats. The modern grocery industry wants you to believe that preserving food is a dangerous or impossibly complicated science. They want you completely dependent on their supply chain every single week. The chemistry of traditional canning and fermentation is actually a magnificent survival tool that requires absolutely no electricity to store food for years. Buying cheap seasonal produce in massive bulk and preserving it in your own kitchen creates a permanent food insurance policy. It guarantees your family will eat well, even if the supermarket shelves go completely empty. Number 7 is utilizing the ultimate protein of the working class. During the Great Depression, dry pinto beans and navy beans were the undisputed backbone of survival because they cost roughly 2 cents a pound. The industrial meat industry has spent decades convincing modern Americans that a meal without a massive piece of meat is somehow incomplete. Here is the mathematical reality they hide from you. A single pound of cheap dry beans provides a massive amount of high-quality protein and fiber for a fraction of the cost of industrial beef. Replacing just 2 meat dinners a week with a heavily seasoned bean stew completely slashes your monthly grocery budget without sacrificing any nutritional value for your family. Third pattern break. This next one shocked even me, and it involves a survival strategy that modern authorities and massive industries have tried to regulate out of existence. Even though it is cleaner and more effective than anything you are currently buying, the items in our top 6 are the absolute pinnacle of working-class grit, and they reveal exactly how much power we gave up for the illusion of convenience. Number 6 is building every single meal around an incredibly cheap carbohydrate foundation. In a 1930s kitchen, expensive ingredients were merely a garnish, while massive servings of potatoes, rice, and oats provided the actual caloric backbone of the dinner. The modern diet industry has spent decades aggressively demonizing carbohydrates to sell you highly processed and extremely expensive diet foods. Here is the mathematical reality. A 50-pound sack of potatoes costs almost nothing and will physically sustain a family for an entire month. By making cheap grains and root vegetables the absolute center of your dinner plate, you force your grocery budget to plummet while still leaving the dinner table completely full. Number 5 is the lost daily routine of baking bread entirely from scratch. Decades ago, a mother would mix flour, water, and yeast to create the foundational staple of the family diet. The modern commercial bakery industry stepped in and convinced us that baking is a complicated luxury that requires specialized equipment and hours of free time. Here is the math that nobody runs. Baking a massive loaf of hearty bread in your own oven costs roughly 40 cents in raw materials. Supermarkets will gladly charge you $5 for a loaf of sandwich bread filled with chemical preservatives. Taking back the skill of baking is the ultimate way to drastically cut food costs while filling your home with an aroma that no corporation can ever manufacture. Number 4 is the exact chemical miracle I mentioned at the very beginning of this video. It is the practice of boiling leftover bones to extract deep nutrition. Today, we literally pay $8 for a tiny carton of bone broth at the grocery store, and we call it an innovative modern wellness trend. That is the exact same survival trick your great-grandmother used for free when she simmered marrow bones on a wood stove in 1934. The modern health industry simply stole her survival tactic, put it in a fancy package, and charged you a premium. Saving the bones from a cheap roasted chicken and boiling overnight creates a massive batch of highly nutritious stock for absolutely zero extra dollars. Number 3 is transforming every inch of your backyard into a working thrift garden. During the hardest economic times, families grew tomatoes, beans, and squash in every available patch of dirt because it was the absolute only way to eat fresh food. The modern chemical lawn care industry spent billions of dollars convincing Americans that a flat, useless patch of green grass is the ultimate symbol of suburban success. They want you buying their weed killers instead of growing your own food. Planting a simple patch of vegetables in your yard bypasses the entire agricultural supply chain. It turns your private property into a literal supermarket that produces fresh food for your family almost completely for free. Number 2 is enforcing the ultimate working-class mantra. Use it up, wear it out, make it do or do without. This was never just a catchy phrase. It was the absolute martial law of the American household. Modern corporate advertising is designed entirely to destroy this exact mindset. They spend billions trying to convince you that replacing old things with brand new things is the only path to happiness. Here is the psychological truth. Choosing to make do with what you already have is a profound act of financial defiance. When you refuse to buy a new product simply because the old one is slightly worn, you instantly stop the bleeding of your own wealth and take your power back from the retail industry. Number 1 is the absolute pinnacle of survival creativity. It is the creation of clothing and household goods directly from animal feed sacks and flour bags. When cash disappeared, rural women did not sit around feeling sorry for themselves. They took the heavy cotton bags that held chicken feet, washed them out, and used a pedal sewing machine to create beautiful dresses, sturdy curtains, and incredible quilts. The modern fashion industry calls this zero-waste fashion and charges hundreds of dollars for it. Your grandmother just called it survival. These women possessed a level of grit and resourcefulness that allowed them to dress their children with immense pride using literal industrial packaging. They proved that true wealth is not about how much cash you have, but about how brilliantly you can use exactly what is in front of you. Every single financial trick on this list funneled toward one specific outcome. Spend less, make more, save the difference, and remain completely debt-free. These 25 skills were never about living in poverty. They were a brilliant declaration of independence. Every saved grease jar, every mended sock, and every planted seed was a strategic way to keep money away from the banking system and the massive retail corporations. Your grandparents understood this reality perfectly. Now you know it too. The question is whether you will do what they did or keep mindlessly scrolling through the internet. Here is my direct challenge to you. Try just one trick this week. Keep your bacon grease in a glass jar. Sew a loose button back onto a shirt. Boil some leftover chicken bones into a rich broth. Then, come back here and tell me if your grandfather was wrong. Share exactly which trick you are going to try in the comments below. I want to see if the thrifty garden gets more love than the perpetual soup pot, because these are not just survival hacks. They are the exact wisdom that entire industries were built to make us forget. Your ancestors already knew this, now you know.